So you want to stop identifying as the past version of yourself. This video is for you. More specifically, this also applies to preventing situations that have happened to us, not just traumas, just little situations, and how we can let go of those situations and not let it become an identity, and how we can move on faster and grow from those situations. Now, a little disclaimer, if you are someone who absolutely cannot forgive a person, forgive a situation, or forgive yourself, this video is not for you. Feel free to listen. Anyway, let's get to the video. So step 7 is the most important step, but in order for you to understand step 7, you need to understand step 1 through 6. So step 1 is forgiving the person, forgiving the situation, and forgiving yourself. You need to be able to forgive yourself for not knowing better. You need to be able to forgive yourself for not having that emotional awareness that you should have had during the situation. You need to forgive yourself for just not being aware of what was going on in the situation. You need to forgive yourself for not doing what you wish you had done. And you also need to forgive the person. You need to forgive the person for not having the emotional intelligence of handling that situation. You need to forgive the person for not having that awareness of the situation. You need to forgive the person for not having the problem-solving skills for a certain situation. You need to forgive the person for hurting you and making you feel bad. You need to forgive the person with everything. Everything that person has done, you need to forgive them, because in order for you to move on and stop this grieving and stop this mourning, like, oh, I feel so bad, like I wish this never happened to me. In order for you to stop this stuff, you have to forgive yourself in every single way possible, and you have to forgive the person in every single way possible in order for you to move on. This is the hardest step to do, but once you do this step, everything else gets easier. You need to forgive the situation. The way I see it is that you have yourself, you have the situation, and you have the person. And the situation is its own problem. That situation was created between two people, and one person might have been able to prevent the situation, the other person couldn't, which is why you have a situation, which is why you now have a problem, and which is why you are now hurt, and which is why it now affects you, and you cannot let go. But you have to forgive that situation in order to let go. And once you're able to let go of the hurt that you wish you could have done to prevent the situation, and once you have let go of the hurt that that other person has caused you, it makes letting go of that situation easier, and that forgiveness of that situation. And when you forget all three parties, you are now allowing yourself to let go and to detach from what has happened. Because if you are still attached to what has happened, it is now going to become an identity, and it's going to be embedded in your head, and you're going to start thinking that this is you. That whatever the person did to you, it's you. Whatever you didn't do for yourself, it's you. Like, oh my God, I wish I've done it. And now you're identifying with the version of yourself that didn't do it. Like, you're saying, oh, I wish I could have did this and this and that. Well, now become that person who has that emotional awareness to do this, and that. Forgiveness is the hardest part, but once you're able to forgive all three parties, you're able to move on and detach from that identity of who has been hurt. Step 2 is stop playing the victim. You want to keep victimizing yourself? Go for it, because all it's going to do is make you think that you are that situation. All it's going to do is feed into the pain. All it's going to do is just feed into your ego, and the worst part of your ego that doesn't like themselves. You're feeding into the hate that you give yourself if you keep victimizing yourself. A victim mentality does not allow you to move forward. A victim mentality makes you stay in the same position. It could be years, and if you're still playing victim of something that happened to you 5 years ago, you have not detached from that situation, and you're still identifying with the past version of yourself. As well, the way I see it is there is no victim. Some situations maybe, but this is where you have to go seek help. I can't talk about this, but there's a lot of situations where there is no victim whatsoever. The only victim is the problem. The other person is not the victim. I don't care if they blamed you for everything that happened, or they're like, oh, but you did this, and this is why I'm feeling this way, and they want to have a victim mentality. Go have a victim mentality. It is not my problem. You want to sit and blame everyone else but you and not take accountability of your actions. That is your problem. You play victim, because I am no longer going to play victim because you blamed me for this, and that. Or let's say someone has done you dirty, and obviously like they've done you dirty and they don't see this being a problem, but to you it's the biggest problem ever, and it has impacted you and has caused trauma you need to let go and stop playing the victim. The other person may have not even seen that you're the victim. The other person doesn't even care about you. The other person doesn't even acknowledge your existence. And the fact that the other person doesn't even acknowledge your existence, why are you still playing victim? Because if you still have this victim mindset, thinking that finally this person's going to see what they did wrong because I keep victimizing yourself, trust, they're not. You are not in their mind. No matter how much you victimize yourself, no one is going to feel sympathy for you. And that is the hard truth of life. No one cares. And that person who hurt you does not care. If they hurt you, obviously they don't care about you. Like, put two and two together. So do not have a victim mindset, because it puts you in a lack position and it hurts your self-esteem, it hurts your value, and it hurts your worth. Because if you keep playing victim, you're going to keep identifying with your past self and you're not moving forward and becoming the version of yourself that you are meant to become. As well, this also ties to number 1. If you cannot forgive yourself, you are playing victim. You cannot forgive yourself for what you could have done in this situation. You are not forgiving yourself for whatever happened in the situation, and you're hating yourself. And now you're playing victim and you're causing all of this distress to yourself. The only victim is the problem and is the situation. The situation is the victim, and there are two people who need to go and attack that situation. There are two people who need to go attack that problem. But let's say this other person does not care about the problem. They don't care. Now it's you only who needs to attack this problem. And in order for you to attack this problem, you need to stop being the victim and attack the problem and victimize the problem. It's the problem's fault for causing all of this. It is not your fault. It is the problem's fault. And if the other person cannot identify that it is the problem's fault and that every single problem can be solved, leave it alone. That person couldn't identify it. That person doesn't have the emotional intelligence and awareness to identify the problem and attack the problem and victimize the problem. Because as people, we're problem solvers. We have the cognitive ability to solve problems, but not everyone has that big cognitive ability. Not everyone can do those things. Like, there was a situation one time in my life where the person who hurt me could care less. And I played victim for 3 years, thinking if I kept playing victim and victim and victim, they would all of a sudden feel bad for me. Girl, they never even came back. They never felt bad for me. They did not care what they did. So trust, no one cares. And so what I had to do was attack the problem and stop victimizing myself and victimize the problem. The problem is the victim. I'm not the victim. The problem can get the hell out of me because I don't care about the problem. It is not my problem anymore. Number 3 is stop assuming that what has happened to you is forever. It is not forever. Trust, if I can go back in time and tell myself from when I was in high school, you're gonna get over that situation and it's not even across your mind anymore, I wish I could, because there were times where I went through things that traumatized me, that I thought that this is me forever, that I am now my trauma and I'm not that person who I was before the trauma. And when you let go of the idea of this is me forever, it makes the process of detaching from your old identity easier, and realizing like, hey, yeah, this has affected me in so many ways and it has caused me to be a different person, but how can I transmute that energy and become a better person? How can I make this negative energy into a positive energy? How can I see the positive in the situation and grow from the situation and not have the situation become forever for me and not let it be an identity for me? Because if you cannot do that, it becomes an identity for you and it gets stuck in you forever if you cannot do this. What has happened to you as you get older, and maybe you're younger on here, but as you get older in life, you'll realize so many things happen. And when you're able to move on, you'll start realizing like, wow, no, this taught me a very valuable lesson and it really wasn't forever. And I'm so grateful that I've experienced this. But if you don't have this mindset, that's when you're going to start believing that this is forever. Because there are so many people in this world who have gone through something and all of a sudden they make it their identity and they are stuck in this very closed environment thinking that this is the only way of life. Because of my traumas, this is the only way I can go about life now, which is not the case. Number 4, stop telling everyone your business and stop introducing everyone you know as your traumas. There was a time in my life where I was like, oh my God, I met this new person. They have to know what happened to me or else They don't know me. You know how stupid that sounds? Why am I telling these new people who've never met me something that happened to me 3 years ago? If I'm still talking about something that happened to me 3 years ago to every single new person in my life, clearly I'm still identifying with my past, and clearly I'm still the past version of myself who has not moved on from the situation. Trust me, you'll be able to let go of the past version of yourself when you stop telling people what has happened to you. Because when you stop telling people, you're not identifying with that version of yourself anymore, and people are going to see you as who you are presenting yourselves to them. They're going to see the version of who you are today. But if you're still identifying with who you are in the past, they're going to see who you are from the past, and they can't see past that. Trust me. Trust. Number 5 is start becoming the person who no longer associates with the past. You have to let go. Letting go of what has happened to you, letting go of a situation, letting go of a problem, letting go of something that has hurt you so bad, and making you grieve every single day is going to help you become the person who you are meant to be next. Every time when you go through something, you become a new person. And it's either you can become the worst version of yourself or you can become a better version of yourself. It's all about perception and how you view yourself and how you view the world. If you always have a negative mindset, you're always going to view yourself negatively. If you have a positive mindset about problems and situations and things that happen traumatically in your life, even though it's very hard to have a positive mindset about those things, but if you can transmute that energy and make it a positive thing, you're now becoming the new version of yourself that is much better than the old version of yourself that you are forgiving. You see how these all connect? All these connect, okay? And the way I see it too, everything that happens into your life that has made a big impact on your character has allowed you to become a better version of yourself. And what I mean by that is when something has happened, you didn't know how to handle that situation. You didn't have that emotional intelligence or that awareness. You didn't have that self-love and self-worth about that situation. And now that that situation has happened, you can learn from it and you can become the person who is now aware of these things. But again, if you're grieving and playing victim, there's no shot in you whatsoever for being aware and for growing past the situation and growing past from your old identity. Number 6 is continuing to do the shadow work and learning from your experience and being open to exploring new experiences. And by shadow work, what I mean is going through the deep part of yourselves and how that trauma or how something has hurt you has affected you in forming new experiences. So how can I heal from this and move on from this so I can start exploring new experiences without being scared, without feeling like I'm gonna get hurt again? Because you need to remember, when you explore the deepest parts of yourself and do the shadow work, if that situation is not going to happen again. Trust, you have the emotional awareness to know that it is not going to happen again. And number 2, if you do get hurt, if you do get traumatized again, you know how to deal with it in a more effective way. Think about this. Some people, when something happens to them, they go for drugs and all this, that. Okay? If that's how you handle things, that's how you handle things. But there are other people who have done all this stuff and they've realized handling a situation with all this negative stuff, all this pleasure stuff, does not help their mental health. So instead, they've learned how to grow and find healthy coping mechanisms to move past situations. Now, if you absolutely cannot be open to new experiences, that just shows that you still have a lot of healing to do. If you're still going into these new experiences with fear that what's going to happen to you in the past is going to happen again, you have not healed from this situation and you have not grown and you have not developed that emotional intelligence to be aware of what is going around you, to recognize that this is not the same pattern as what I went through in the past. And again, the past teaches you so much, and that's the beauty of it. It teaches you a lot about who you are and how you can start navigating situations. And number 7 is very important, and it's the reason why I decided to make this video. Basically, you want to be able to recognize that you may not be the past version of yourself anymore, but you still have lingering baggage that you are letting identify in other areas of your life. Pay attention again. You may not identify with that past version of yourself. The self-concept, you as an individual, you no longer identify with that person of yourself anymore. But what I came to realize is that I worked so much on my self-concept and my identity that I didn't work on other areas of my life. And one area of my life where I still identify as the past version of myself is the area of love and relationships. And because I still identify with the version of myself when it comes to relationships, it is hard for me to create relationships, which has now brought into my attention that there are lingering things. I need to find the root cause of this problem and do the shadow work. So you have to come to a realization that when you are letting go of the old identity of yourself, you need to look at every single concept of your life. I focused so much on self-concept, but I didn't focus on love and relationship concept. Or you might be someone who still identifies with the concept of your career life and you still see yourself as the past version of yourself in career, which is hard for you to grow in your career. So when it comes to letting go of your past identity, you need to look at every single area of your life in order for you to grow in those aspects of your life. For me now, I've learned something and I definitely need to work on the area when it comes to relationships in my life because I still identify as the person who I was when I got hurt in those areas, which is not allowing me to grow in relationships. And it's the same thing when it comes to your insecurities, career, self-concept, all these areas of your life. You have to work on those in order to evolve and stop identifying with your past in those areas of life. Anyway, I hope this video helped you guys. Please take this advice because I have to take it myself. So yeah, thanks for watching.